You need discipline. Every time the belt cracked down, he'd repeat those words while my mother stood in the kitchen, turning up the radio. That night, the neighbors heard my screams and the sharp sound of leather meeting flesh. One called 911. Another started recording. I was ready. The evidence was already hidden in the walls of our house, and my plan would end the moment the cops knocked on our door. My name is Marissa Cole, and I've memorized every creak in our rental house's floorboards. 26 years old, working night shifts at Harbor Line Transport, and still living in the same suffocating box where Randall Pierce has ruled for 11 years. The key turned at 2:43 a.m. My body knew his schedule better than any clock. Night shift ended, muscles aching from loading freight, and there he sat in the dark living room. The streetlight bleeding through thin curtains outlined his bulk in the recliner waiting. The leather belt already coiled on the armrest like a sleeping snake. "You need discipline," he said, not even looking at me. The words crawled across my skin. "Saw your car at that diner on Morse Road. Who were you meeting?" "Getting food after work." My voice stayed flat. I'd learned not to defend, not to explain. Any emotion was gasoline on his fire. The belt uncoiled with a whisper. Behind him, through the paper-thin wall, I heard Mrs. Alvarez's TV switch off next door. The walls in these old Columbus rentals hide nothing. Every sob, every impact, every lesson Randall delivered the whole street knew our business. They'd learned to mind their own. Fresh welts crisscrossed with fading ones on my arms when I finally made it to my room, some purple-black, some yellow-green, a whole palette of violence painted under my work uniform. I stood at my window, watching lights flicker on and off in the neighbors' windows. Ty and Janelle Brooks across the street, their bedroom light clicking on, probably woken by the noise. Mrs. Alvarez's kitchen light next door, where she'd make her three tea and pretend she heard nothing. The floorboard outside my door creaked Randall's weight, shifting as he patrolled. 3 steps to the bathroom, 5 to the master bedroom where my mother Elaine slept with pills and denial, 7 to my door. I knew them all. My phone buzzed with a text from Keisha, my friend who worked day shift at Columbus General. "You okay? Saw you online." I typed back, "Yeah," then deleted it. Typed, "Define okay." Deleted that too. Finally sent, "Alive." The house settled into its nightly rhythm. Randall's snoring from the recliner where he'd sleep until dawn. Belt still in hand, the refrigerator's hum, the neighbor's cat crying somewhere, and me, sitting on my bed, staring at the ceiling vent where I'd hidden my first recorder 2 weeks ago. "You need discipline." Those 3 words had been his anthem since he moved in when I was 15. For staying out past 9, for speaking too loud, for existing in ways that challenged his authority. 11 years of those words preceding pain. But tonight was different. Tonight, when he'd said them, I'd smiled inside, because every word was being captured, every threat documented. The blueprint for his destruction was already drawn. Through my window, I watched Mrs. Alvarez's kitchen light finally go dark. In 4 hours, the morning shift would start their day, kids would wait for school buses, and everyone would pretend our house was normal. But I was done pretending. I touched the fresh welt on my forearm and made a silent promise I'll make you say those words where everyone can hear them, where they can't pretend anymore. The thin walls that had been my curse would become my weapon. Every neighbor who'd turned up their TV, everyone who'd looked away, they'd all be my witnesses. "You need discipline." "No, Randall. You need consequences." Randall Pierce came into our lives when I was 15, wearing a security guard uniform and a smile that fooled my mother completely. Elaine had been drowning 2 jobs, 3 months behind on rent, and me eating cereal for dinner most nights. Then Randall appeared with his steady paycheck and promises to straighten this family out. The first time he hit me was 3 weeks after he moved in. I'd forgotten to wash his coffee mug. The backhand came so fast I didn't see it, just tasted copper in my mouth and heard him say, "You need discipline. Your mother's too soft on you." Elaine stood in the doorway, frozen. Later, she'd bring me ice wrapped in a dishcloth and whisper, "He's stressed from work. We need this house. Baby, just try to follow his rules." His rules. No phone after 8 p.m., no friends over, no talking back, no breathing too loud, no existing without permission. And when I broke them, which meant whenever he decided I had out came the belt, the system protected him. That's what I learned the 3 times I tried to get help. First was Aunt Patricia, my mother's sister, 16 years old. I showed up at her apartment with a split lip and bruises shaped like fingers around my upper arm. She made me tea, let me cry, then drove me home. Every family has problems. Marissa, you can't air dirty laundry. Besides, where would your mother go? She finally has stability. Second was Pastor Williams at Greater Faith Baptist, where Elaine dragged us every Sunday so Randall could play the devoted family man. I stayed after youth group, showed him the welts on my back. He prayed over me, handed me a pamphlet about honoring thy father and mother, and told me suffering builds character. God doesn't give us more than we can handle. Be strong, child. Third was my high school counselor, Ms. Bennett, senior year. She noticed me wincing when I sat down. I broke and told her everything. She called social services. The investigator came when Randall was home. He was charming, concerned, cooperative, showed them my messy room, my declining grades a B+ instead of an A, painted me as a troubled teen acting out. Elaine backed every word. The case was closed in 2 weeks. That's when I learned the system doesn't save you. It teaches you to save yourself. After graduation, I could have run. Should have. Maybe. But Elaine had developed diabetes, lost her insurance when the restaurant cut her hours. Randall held that over my head like a weapon sharper than his belt. You leave. Your mother loses this house. Her medication alone costs $400 a month. You want that on your conscience? So I stayed. Got the job at Harbor Line loading freight night shift meant less time under his roof. Saved every dollar I could in an account he didn't know about. And started documenting. The revelation came from a Reddit thread about domestic violence. Someone wrote, "They believe bruises that are photographed. They believe recordings. They believe patterns documented over time. One incident is alleged. 20 incidents with evidence is a case." I bought a composition notebook from Dollar Tree. Started writing entries March 3rd, 11:15 p.m., belt, 6 strikes, left forearm, right shoulder. Said, "You need discipline 4 times. March 9th, 1:30 a.m., shoved into wall, bruise on right hip. You need discipline for that attitude. March 16th, midnight belt, 4 strikes, thighs. Discipline makes you stronger." The pattern emerged clear as daylight. The violence wasn't random. It followed his work schedule. Bad shifts meant bad nights for me. The words were always the same. The neighbors' patterns were predictable too. TVs louder, windows closing, nobody ever calling for help. But patterns work both ways. If I could map his violence, I could trap him with it. The culture in our house was built on fear dressed up as respect. Elaine called it keeping peace. She'd stand outside my door after whispering apologies through the wood, but never once opened it to stop him. She chose her diabetes medication over her daughter's safety, and I couldn't even blame her. The system makes you choose between survival and survival, but I was done being a casualty of everyone else's choices. If the system wouldn't work for me, I'd make it work against him. The break room at Harbor Line Transport smelled like burnt coffee and diesel fumes. Keisha Ward found me there during shift change, pressing a bag of frozen peas from the vending machine against my wrist. She didn't say anything at first, just sat down and unwrapped her sandwich. "That's not from loading freight," she finally said, nodding at the purple-green bracelet of bruises around my forearm. I could have lied. Should have. Probably. But something in her eyes, not pity, but recognition, made me tell the truth. "No, it's not." Keisha pulled out her phone, swiped to the camera. "Hold your arm under the light." "No. The fluorescent one, it shows the color variation better." She took 6 photos from different angles, then pulled a ruler from her purse. Always include something for scale. Judges need to see size, not just color. You're a nurse, I said, watching her work with clinical precision. And I grew up with a father like your Randall. The only difference is my mother finally got smart when he broke her jaw. She showed me how to document properly: date, time, measurement, description of pain on a scale of 1 to 10. Write it like a medical report. Emotion doesn't hold up in court. Evidence does. That night, she texted me Link's Ohio domestic violence statutes, how to file for emergency protective orders. Recording laws Ohio being a one-party consent state, meaning I could record anything I was part of. She sent me to Mr. Dugan, a legal advocate at the Community Justice Center downtown. Mr. Dugan's office was squeezed between a bail bondsman and a Chinese takeout place. He was 70 if he was a day, with coffee stains on his tie and the sharpest eyes I'd ever seen. "Show me what you have," he said. I laid out my notebook. 3 months of documentation. Photos Keisha had taught me to take. He flipped through slowly, marking pages with sticky notes. It's good, but not enough. Bruises fade. Written records can be disputed. You need audio, video if possible, and witnesses. The neighbors hear everything, but they won't. They will if they can't avoid it. He leaned back, chair creaking. Don't confront him. That's what he expects, what he's prepared for. Document everything. Get him on recording saying those words. You need discipline. Pattern of behavior plus audio evidence plus witness accounts equals conviction. How long? As long as it takes to build an airtight case. One shot is all you get. Miss it, and he'll escalate or disappear. On the bus home, I stopped at Best Buy. Security cameras, voice recorders, all returnable within 30 days if unopened. I bought them with credit cards Randall didn't know existed. Mrs. Alvarez was watering her petunias when I got home. She lived in the other half of our duplex, separated by walls so thin I could hear her rosary beads clicking at night. "Marissa, honey, you okay?" I heard. "Last night was loud." This was my opening. "Yeah, it was. It's been getting worse." She looked away, focusing on her flowers. "These old houses. Sound carries." Every word, I agreed. Every impact, clear as day. Her hand stilled on the watering can. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying next time you hear something, maybe listen closer. Maybe Thursday around 11. That's usually when it's worst." She met my eyes then, and I saw she understood. I'm an old woman. Sometimes I have to call 911 when I hear concerning noises. Heart problems, you know. They always ask what kind of sounds I'm hearing. "That would be terrible," I said. "Having a heart episode from disturbing sounds." "Terrible," she agreed. Inside, Elaine was cooking Randall's favorite pot roast that filled the house with false comfort. "You're late," she said, not looking up. "Stopped at the library. Research for. Moving out eventually." She froze. "Marissa, you can't. My medication." "I know. Mom." I watched her shoulders relax. "I'm just researching." That night, Randall came home in a good mood, which meant he only criticized my posture and took my phone for spending too much time on that thing. I handed it over without argument, went to my room, and pulled out the second phone Keisha had lent me. I texted her, "Game on." She replied, "Keep copies of everything in the cloud. Multiple accounts. Evidence disappears in these cases." I looked at the vent where my first recorder waited, at the smoke detector with its new hidden camera lens, at the bruises Keisha had taught me to document like evidence instead of shame. The first crack in Randall's power wasn't him hitting me, it was teaching me that bruises could speak louder than silence. The house became my recording studio, wired for sound and sight in ways Randall would never suspect. Installing everything took 3 weeks of careful planning, working only during his shifts and Elaine's grocery runs. The first recorder went into the heating vent in the hallway, a voice-activated device no bigger than a lipstick tube. The metal vent cover went back on with the same screws, the same dust patterns undisturbed. From there, it could catch sounds from the living room where most of his discipline sessions happened. The doorbell camera was a stroke of genius. I told Elaine I'd won it in a raffle at work, played up the safety angle. Look, Mom, we can see who's at the door without opening it. Great for when Randall works nights. She bought it completely, even helped me install it. What she didn't know was that it captured a perfect angle of our entrance hallway where Randall liked to corner me when I came home late. The fake outlet in the hallway was the trickiest. I watched YouTube videos for hours, learning basic electrical work. It looked identical to our other outlets, but housed a tiny camera with motion activation. Randall walked past it 20 times a day, never knowing it recorded him taking off his belt, recorded his approach to my door, recorded the stance he took before delivering his lessons. Everything uploaded automatically to 3 different cloud accounts, all under fake names, all paid for with gift cards bought with cash. Keisha had hammered this into me. Local storage can be destroyed. Cloud storage is forever. I created a violence log template, printed on regular printer paper. Date. Time. Location. Tool used. Duration. Words spoken exact quotes. Injuries sustained. Pain level 1-10. Witnesses present. Audio file reference. Photo reference. Keisha brought over her medical kit one afternoon while Randall was at work. If this goes to court, you need medical documentation. She taught me proper terminology: contusion instead of bruise, laceration instead of cut, hematoma instead of blood under skin. She showed me how to use measuring tape with photograph markers, how to describe injury patterns that suggested repeated trauma versus single incidents. This bruise pattern, she pointed to my shoulder, is consistent with grip marks from a right hand. See how the thumbprint is larger. Document that. The belt marks have a specific width. Measure it, then measure his belts. Match them. Mr. Dugan had given me more strategic advice during our second meeting. File a noise complaint with property management. Don't mention domestic violence. Just say there are disturbing noises at night. Creates a paper trail. Send it certified mail. Keep the receipt. I wrote the letter carefully to whom it may concern. I am writing to formally document ongoing noise disturbances at 447 Thornwood Drive. Unit A. These disturbances typically occur between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. and include loud voices, impact sounds, and other disruptions that interfere with peaceful enjoyment of the property. This issue has been ongoing for several months. Please acknowledge receipt of this complaint. The property manager, a bored woman named Deb, barely looked up when I handed her the certified letter. We'll put it in your file, she said. Perfect. A dated official record that something was happening in our house. The preparation extended beyond just recording. I studied Randall's patterns obsessively. He was most violent on Wednesdays, middle of his work week, after 11 p.m., 2 drinks in, when the Cavaliers lost happened often enough, or when bills arrived. I could predict his trigger days with 70% accuracy. I started leaving my bedroom door slightly open on those nights, ensuring hallway audio would be clearer. I'd wear tank tops instead of long sleeves, making bruises more visible to cameras. I'd stand in specific spots where I knew multiple devices would capture the scene. Ty Brooks across the street turned out to be an unexpected ally. He worked IT for the city, came over one day to borrow a wrench, and noticed my doorbell camera. Nice model, he said. Same one we have. You know these capture audio from about 20 feet away. Really? I kept my voice neutral. Yeah. And they store 90 days of triggered recordings in the cloud for free. We've caught some interesting neighborhood drama. He paused, looked at me carefully. Sometimes at night, voices carry all the way to our front porch camera, especially loud, angry voices. The message was clear. Their camera was recording too. By early April, I had 43 audio files, 16 video clips, 87 photographs, and a 60-page log documenting 6 months of abuse. Every file was backed up in triplicate. Every piece of evidence corresponded to a written entry. The house wasn't just walls and bad memories anymore. It was a black box recorder, waiting for the right crash to reveal its secrets. The layoffs at Randall's security company started in late April. First, They cut hours, then benefits, then entire shifts. He kept his job but lost his seniority, got stuck with weekend nights and the routes nobody wanted, check-cashing stores and warehouses in neighborhoods where security guards were targets. He brought that fear home and converted it to rage. "This house needs order," he announced at dinner, slamming his fist so hard Elaine's water glass jumped. "Too much slack, too much disrespect." His eyes fixed on me. "You think you're grown, paying some bills? You need discipline more than ever." That night, the rain hammered our roof like it was trying to break through. 11:27 p.m. By my phone. I heard his boots in the hallway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stop. My door opened without a knock. "You left dishes in the sink." "I just got home from work." The belt was already in his hand. "You need discipline. Say it." "No." The first strike caught my raised arm, defensive wound. Keisha had taught me. The recorder in the vent captured everything, the whistle of leather through air, the impact, my sharp inhale, his grunt of effort. "Say it. You need discipline." The second strike. Third. The doorbell camera caught my cry through the thin walls, but this time, something new. Ty Brooks' voice from across the street, clear through their own camera audio. "Jesus Christ, he's at it again. Record this. Janelle." Fourth strike. "You need discipline. This house runs on respect." I curled into myself, protecting vital areas while ensuring visible areas took damage. My tank top left arms and shoulders exposed. Every welt would photograph beautifully under fluorescent light. The rain stopped at 11:43. Randall left at 11:45, boots tracking water down the hall. At 11:47, my phone buzzed. "Janelle Brooks. We got it all. Audio from our porch camera. Saving to cloud now. Mrs. Alvarez. Recorded from my kitchen window. That man is evil." By morning, I had the night fully documented. Audio from 3 sources: my vent recorder, doorbell camera, and the Brooks porch camera. Ty had been smart, using his phone to record their camera's playback screen, creating a second layer of authentication with timestamp visible. The photographs showed a pattern Keisha called defensive injury constellation: wounds on outer arms, shoulders, upper back, the kind you get protecting yourself, not from a fair fight. I compiled everything into a single folder, April 29th incident, added it to the larger file structure I'd built over months. Then I did something new. I submitted it. The online portal for Ohio's domestic violence hotline had a secure upload feature. I'd created an account weeks earlier under guidance from Mr. Dugan. Now I uploaded April 29th's folder with a simple note: ongoing abuse, escalating, previous complaints dismissed, new evidence attached. The case number came back immediately: DV 2024-4829. I forwarded it to Mr. Dugan with CC to a new email account I'd created for Keisha plausible deniability if Randall ever checked her phone. 2 days later, Elaine found one of my recorders. She was changing the hallway vent filter, something she never did. When the device fell out, she picked it up, turned it over in her hands, and I watched the understanding dawn on her face. "What is this? Protection. You're recording us, our private. I'm recording him, his violence, his crimes." She went pale. "Marissa, if he finds out, he won't. You don't understand. This house, my medications, everything depends on me being his punching bag. How long, Mom? Until he breaks something that won't heal, until he goes too far." She clutched the recorder like it might explode. "He provides. He controls. There's a difference." That's when she said the words that broke something in me. "You're going to ruin this family? This isn't a family. It's a hostage situation you've decorated with pot roast and denial." She destroyed the recorder, smashed it with a hammer in the garage, swept the pieces into the trash. But she didn't know about the others, didn't know about the cloud storage, the allies, the case number already filed. That night, she warned Randall obliquely at dinner. "Marissa's been stressed, acting out. Maybe go easy for a while." He looked between us, jaw tightening. Acting out how Elaine's eyes pleaded with me to stay quiet. I met his stare directly. Just working a lot. Tired. He nodded slowly. Tired people make mistakes. Mistakes require correction. The belt was already unbuckling in his mind. We'll discuss your behavior tonight. I pulled out the backup phone Keisha had given me, typed under the table. Tonight. Be ready. The responses came quickly. Keisha. On standby. Mrs. Alvarez. Window open, phone charged. Ty Brooks. Porch camera aimed at your front door. 9 hours until Randall's next lesson. 9 hours to position the final pieces. Elaine's betrayal cut deeper than any belt strike. Finding the destroyed recorder had flipped a switch in her from passive enabler to active accomplice. She spent the next 3 days tearing my room apart whenever I was at work, hunting for more devices. She found the one in my closet light fixture, gone. The one behind my dresser, gone. But she didn't know about the ones in common areas. Those were still mine. You're going to put us on the street, she hissed at me over breakfast. Randall still asleep. Ungrateful child, after everything we've sacrificed. You sacrificed me, I said. That's not the same thing. Thursday evening, things escalated. Randall came home early, found me on my phone in the kitchen. His hand shot out, grabbed it before I could react. Let's see what's so interesting. He scrolled through my messages with Keisha. Most were coded, careful, but there was enough. References to documentation, times and dates. My mention of Mr. Dugan. His face went from suspicious to volcanic. You little bitch, you're building a case. I'm protecting myself. The backhand came fast, snapping my head sideways. The doorbell camera would catch my cry, but not the impact wrong angle from the kitchen. Give me your laptop, now. It's at work. Another strike. Your tablets, other phones, everything. That's all I have. He went through my room like a tornado, throwing clothes, dumping drawers, ripping apart my mattress. He found nothing because everything that mattered was in the cloud, accessible from any device. But he found something else, the business card Mr. Dugan had given me. Community Justice Center. He read, You went to a lawyer, a legal advocate. It's free consultation about tenant rights. Lying bitch. He pocketed the card, turned to Elaine who stood frozen in my doorway. You knew about this. I found recorders. I destroyed them. I tried to stop her. Mother of the Year, selling me out to save herself. Randall grabbed my work bag, dumped it, found the backup phone Keisha had given me. His smile was cold. You think you're smart? Let's see how smart. He read through everything, the safety check messages, the coordination with neighbors, the references to recordings. Then he did something I hadn't expected. He called Keisha's number. This is Randall Pierce, Marissa's guardian. I need to inform you that she's been having mental health episodes. Making up stories. If you've received any concerning messages, please disregard them. We're getting her help. I could hear Keisha's voice, but not her words. Whatever she said made him hang up fast. Pack a bag, he told me. You're going to stay with your Aunt Patricia for a while, until you remember how family loyalty works? No. He pulled out his phone. Then I call your job. Tell them about your mental instability. Your documentation obsession. How you've been recording coworkers without consent. That's illegal. That's consequences. He stepped closer, breath hot on my face. You want to play games I've been playing longer? Your mother and I will tell anyone who asks that you're troubled. Violent. We tried to help, but you refused treatment. Who do you think they'll believe, the stable couple or the girl who secret records her family? I looked at Elaine. She wouldn't meet my eyes. 1 hour, Randall said. Pack or I make the calls. I went to my room, locked the door, pulled out the tablet he hadn't found hidden inside an old textbook, typed quickly to my safety network. Plan B. He found out. Destroying evidence. I'm being sent away or he'll call my job with lies. Need help now. Mrs. Alvarez responded first. Call police. No, not yet. He'll spin it. Mom's backing him. Keisha, document everything. Photos of room destruction. Save his voicemails. Ty Brooks. Our cameras are rolling. Whatever happens outside, we'll have it. I looked around my destroyed room, at the furniture thrown aside in his rage. Used the tablet to photograph everything, then uploaded it all with notes. Retaliation for reporting. Destroying evidence. Then I typed the message I'd hoped to never send. If you don't hear from me in 12 hours, call 911, case number DV 2024 4829. 8:47 p.m. 1 hour and 13 minutes until his usual discipline time. But tonight wouldn't follow the usual script. Tonight. He thought he'd won by finding my phones, destroying my recorders, turning my mother fully against me. He had no idea that every word he'd just said was captured by the doorbell camera's extended range microphone, that his threat about calling my work was recorded, that his rage destruction of my room was documented in real-time uploads. Final lesson tonight, he called through my door. Before you leave, you need discipline one more time to remember your place. I slipped the tablet back into its hiding spot and prepared for war. 9:17 p.m. The house was primed like a bomb waiting for the right spark. I'd hidden a small Bluetooth speaker in my pocket, paired to the tablet still concealed in the textbook. On it was loaded a compilation of Randall's greatest hits every time he'd said, "You need discipline," over the past 6 months, edited together into an undeniable pattern. My finger hovered over play. "Get out here," Randall commanded from the living room. "Now." I walked out slowly, noting positions. Elaine sat in the kitchen, back turned, radio already playing her denial soundtrack. Randall stood in the living room's center, belt already off, wrapped around his fist with the buckle hanging loose. The hallway camera would catch everything. "Kneel," he said. "No." I said kneel down. His voice carried that dangerous calm before explosion. I hit play on the speaker in my pocket. His own voice filled the room, tinny but clear. "You need discipline," recorded 2 weeks ago. Then again from a month ago. "You need discipline." Over and over. A greatest hits album of abuse. His face went white, then red. "Turn it off." "You need discipline," his recorded voice continued. "You need discipline for that attitude. Discipline makes you stronger." "Turn it off." "Make me." The belt whistled through the air. I turned, taking it on my shoulder while screaming his full name. "Randall Pierce is beating me at 447 Thornwood Drive." Another strike. I kept yelling the address. His name, making sure every device mine, the neighbors, would pick up both the impact sounds and the identification. "You need discipline," he roared, falling into the pattern, giving me exactly what I needed. "You've always needed discipline." The doorbell camera caught it all. The hallway outlet camera recorded his stance, his wind-up, the force of his swings. And outside, I heard what I'd been waiting for. Mrs. Alvarez on her phone through the thin walls. 911. "There's a violent disturbance next door. I can hear screaming and what sounds like someone being beaten." Another strike. My legs buckled, but I kept yelling, "Randall Pierce, stop hitting me with your belt." Through the window, I saw lights going on across the street. Ty Brooks was on his porch, phone raised, recording everything audible from 40 feet away. Janelle stood beside him, also filming. Other neighbors were coming out now, drawn by my deliberate screaming of names and address. "Everyone can hear you," I shouted at Randall. "Everyone knows what you are." "Shut up." Another strike, but panicked now. He could hear the gathering crowd outside. "You need discipline." His own recorded voice kept playing from my pocket. "You need discipline. You need discipline." Then sirens. Still distant but approaching fast. Randall froze, belt raised. Through the front window, we both saw the circus outside half the neighborhood on their porches. Phones raised, recording everything. Mrs. Alvarez standing in her driveway, pointing at our house as she talked to the emergency operator. "You set me up," he said, comprehension dawning. "No, you set yourself up." Every time you said those words, every time you swung that belt, every time Mom looked away, Elaine appeared in the doorway, face white. Randall, the police. Shut up. He turned back to me, raised the belt one more time. You ruined everything. Randall Pierce is attacking me, I screamed as the belt came down. Help someone help me! The sirens were on our street now. Red and blue lights painted our walls through the windows, car doors slamming, footsteps running up our walk. The pounding on the door was tremendous. Police, open up. Randall dropped the belt, tried to compose himself, walked to the door with his fake calm face ready. But the doorbell camera had already captured him moments before belt in hand, mid-swing, rage distorting his features. He opened the door to find not one officer but 4, plus half the neighborhood filming from the street. Officers, there's been a misunderstanding. Sir, step outside. My stepdaughter has mental health issues. She's been making recordings, false accusations. Sir, we need you to step outside now. I walked into view of the door, welts rising on my arms, shoulder bleeding where the buckle had caught. Keisha was already coming up the walk in her scrubs she'd driven here the moment she got my message, ready to document injuries with medical precision. That's him, I said clearly, pointing at Randall. He's been beating me with that belt. I pointed to where he'd dropped it. Multiple witnesses heard him. It's all recorded. When the officer asked for evidence, I pulled out the tablet and hit play. Crystal clear audio filled the night. You need discipline, followed by the sound of leather on skin. The officer's face hardened. Turn around, sir. Hands behind your back. This is ridiculous. Elaine, tell them. But Elaine stood frozen in the doorway, finally seeing the crowd, the cameras, the complete collapse of her house of denial. Ma'am, did you witness the assault? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was in the kitchen. But you heard it. The whole neighborhood leaned in for her answer. The handcuffs clicked shut around Randall's wrists with the same finality as his belt hitting skin. Except this time, the discipline was his to receive. Before they led Randall away, I made sure to catch his eyes one last time. He was trying to maintain his authority even in handcuffs, head high, jaw set. But I saw the fear underneath the same fear he'd fed me for 11 years, now coming home to roost. Marissa, he started, voice trying for reasonable. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. We're family. I looked past him to Elaine, who stood in the doorway like a ghost of the mother she could have been. Her hands trembled as she clutched her robe, radio still playing faintly from the kitchen, that soundtrack to her chosen blindness. You chose silence, I told her, loud enough for everyone to hear. The whole neighborhood chose to listen. The street was full now. Mrs. Alvarez stood with her phone still recording, tears running down her weathered face. Ty and Janelle Brooks had come down from their porch, standing as witnesses. Other neighbors I'd never even spoken to were there, having heard my screams, having finally decided that looking away wasn't an option when the violence was named aloud. We have everything, Ty Brooks told the officer, showing his phone. Months of recordings from our security camera. The audio is clear. Same here, Mrs. Alvarez added. I started recording through my window weeks ago. That poor girl screaming night after night. The officer taking statements looked at the growing crowd of witnesses, then at Keisha, who was photographing my injuries with professional precision, calling out observations, 3/4-inch belt pattern welts, consistent with leather striking at velocity, defensive bruising on forearms, buckle laceration on right shoulder requiring possible sutures. Your case number, the lead officer asked me. DV 2024-4829. There's more evidence in the cloud. 6 months of documentation. Randall's face finally cracked. You've been planning this for 6 months. No, I said. You've been beating me for 11 years. I've been seeking justice for 6 months. They put him in the patrol car at 9:58 p.m. As it pulled away, the neighbors didn't disperse. They stood in the street, on the sidewalk, bearing witness to what they'd ignored for so long. Some couldn't meet my eyes, others nodded, silent acknowledgement of their failure and my survival. Mr. Dugan called while the second officer was taking my formal statement. Evidence is bulletproof. Emergency protection order will be issued by morning. He won't make bail with this many witnesses. Elaine hadn't moved from the doorway. When the last officer left with promises of follow-up, when Keisha finished her documentation and hugged me goodbye with promises to return tomorrow, when the neighbors finally drifted back to their homes, she and I stood facing each other in the wreckage of our living room. "Where will I go?" she asked, voice small. "Without his income, the rent, my medication." "That's your choice to figure out," I said. "Just like staying was your choice. Just like letting him beat me was your choice. Marissa, I'm your mother. No, you were his accomplice." "Mothers protect their children." I walked past her to my destroyed room, past the belt still lying on the floor like a shed snake skin. I picked up my tablet and deleted the draft I'd written weeks ago, an apology letter to her I'd never sent, apologizing for the disruption I was about to cause to her comfortable denial. The house was silent for the first time I could remember. No footsteps stalking the halls. No belt being pulled through loops. No, "you need discipline" hanging in the air like a threat. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the kitchen clock counting off seconds of freedom. I found the measuring tape Keisha had left and hung it on the wall next to a printed photo of my bruises, evidence transformed into a monument. This house had been a crime scene for over a decade. Now it was just walls and a roof, and I could choose to leave whenever I wanted. Mr. Dugan texted one final update. "Bail denied, multiple witnesses, clear evidence. He's being held pending trial. You're safe." Safe. Such a small word for such a massive change. I stood in my doorway, looking at the belt on the floor, at Elaine sitting at the kitchen table with her head in her hands, at the walls that had absorbed so much violence they practically vibrated with its memory. Tomorrow there would be paperwork, court dates, decisions about pressing charges and protection orders, but tonight, for the first time in 11 years, the house was mine to fill with my own sounds. I put on music something Randall had always forbidden after 8 p.m. and let it play as loud as I wanted. Let the neighbors hear something other than screams. Let the walls learn new sounds. The measuring tape swayed gently on its nail. The bruise photographs caught the lamplight. The draft apology was permanently deleted. And I closed the door to my room, locking it not from fear, but from choice. Letting the house settle into the silence I had earned, the silence I controlled, the silence that for the first time belonged entirely to me. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment and let's connect. Please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about what justice means to you. Your own story matters too.